The summer sweep up, combat, and loot blog. We might have to split this up into multiple segments here, but we'll see. I'm not going to watch the video because we're just going to read most of this. I'll probably skip through a little bit too. Elemental weaknesses and NPC defense changes. Elemental weaknesses brought back the old school magic of using the right tool for the job, quite literally. Since this was a drastic shift, we played it safe at first. After a year of watching you enjoy the first batch of weaknesses, we thought it was time to introduce some more. Okay. All right. This is pretty nice. We're especially interested in feedback about whether the elements we've chosen make sense as weaknesses for monsters they're attached to. We've tried to choose thematic weaknesses wherever possible while maintaining game balance. We want to hear about monsters you feel are misplaced or monsters you feel we've missed. There's definitely some they've missed. On that note, the wonderful Gentle Tractor reached out to us last year with some great feedback, which has served as a North Star for this set of tweaks. Air weakness. Mastery over air gives you an edge versus any enemy who relies on cheap tactics like floating or flying. Strong gusts of wind can throw your opponents off balance. I see. Worms are now weak to air instead of earth. Kind of weird. Skeletons are now weak to earth instead of air. That makes sense. And zombies are now weak to fire instead of air. That also makes sense. Okay, okay. Water weaknesses, perhaps a little more readily apparent than air weakness. Anything that feels particularly fiery, including demons from the fiery depths of the Infernus. Wait. Will take some serious damage from water spells. Okay. Does that include anything in the Inferno? Including Jad and Zuck. I mean, I'm assuming ice spells don't apply here. So it's kind of, I mean, at least for Zuck, you're probably not going to be using any water spells. Assuming that ice doesn't count as water, which it doesn't in the rest of the game. Is this already in place? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm assuming some changes like this might be, maybe. I mean, we could check really quick. It is. Oh, wait, no. They're going to be, hold on. What did it say? Worms are now weak to air, so it is not in place yet. Not yet. But soon TM, right? Yeah, that's cool. An entire fucking list of Cerberus, Scotizo. Up against an enemy with an exterior that's too tough to crack, try slamming some earth magic into it. That makes sense. And at first go around, earth weaknesses were perhaps the least utilized. Very true, by the way. There's very few things that are weak to earth, I feel like. I think like some dragons and worms. We're adding a mountain of new NPCs to the list, focusing on NPCs with hard exteriors or creatures who rely on water, which is readily soaked up by your earthy blasts, making these aquatic creatures highly muddy. Drake and Guardian Drakes have been moved into this category since their rock-solid defenses make them feel more similar to metallic draconoids than chromatic ones. For similar reasons, mountain trolls and tough-skinned giant mole have had their weaknesses adjusted to earth. Okay. There are a lot of additions here, including gargoyles, golems, water fiends, jellies. Dude, holy shit. The most interesting among these are alchemical hydra, dawn dusk, kraken. Wow. That's kind of crazy. Dude, there's going to be a lot of mobs that are weak to different kind of elemental spells. That's crazy. Fire weaknesses. They're arguably the most intuitive of any weakness here. Icy stuff melts. Naturey stuff like plants and bugs burn to crisp. Simple. Despite this one being so intuitive, there's a lot more that we could have done with these weaknesses initially. We've not got any changes to NPCs who already have a weakness here, but we've got a lot of additions. Most worth keeping an eye on in this category are Bryophyta, Hespori, and the Calphi Queen. Okay. Sarachnis, Venenatus, Spindle, Scorpia, Nilocus, Verzik. Verzik, Vitter's Spider, Nilocus family. Okay. Or Nilocus form. Gotcha. And Skeletal Wyverns. We mentioned them earlier, but as a reminder, zombies now sit neatly in this category since the rotting flesh burns right off. Nice. Okay. That's a wrap on the elemental weaknesses. Bet. NPC defense changes. Beyond elemental weaknesses, you'll notice on the spreadsheet linked above, that we're taking a pass at some other NPCs and exaggerating their weaknesses where appropriate. To do this, we're making further use of the light, standard, heavy system for ranged defenses. I mean, as of right now, for the most part, these feel kind of useless. There are a couple like niche situations like the spiders on Araxor, you know what I mean? Weak to heavy range hits. And then also Tormented Demons. You can use heavy range hits to hit really hard against their when they're vulnerable. Flat armor is the most interesting thing here. If you're not in the know, a flat armor value of 2 means an enemy takes 2 less damage than you would have hit, meaning if you have a 10, they'll only receive an 8 damage. So it's like defense rating. It like reduces your max hit. I don't know, man. That feels weird. You're going to have different max hits on everything, which is going to be super weird. Realistically, we aren't likely to say this NPC has 20 flat armor. Hope you brought your Elder Maul. But it's a small balancing lever that we can tweak to nudge things one way or another, similar to the more traditional defensive stats in cases we've introduced positive flat armor to an NPC. We're bumping HP down so that kill time isn't likely to change considerably with your existing setup. Gotcha. At this stage, we've taken a very light touch approach to flat armor antics and focus more on traditional defensive stats. But we'll be keeping a close eye on how these changes feel in practice. I don't know if I like that one that much. If that means that you're going to have different max hits on everything, that's weird. I don't know that I like it. All right, loot table changes. If you tuned into any of our RuneFest content, you knew this one was coming. Before we get into specifics, let's talk about why for this section. One of the main drivers behind an undertaking like this is an effort to bolster gameplay variety in the present and in the future. The primary goal behind tweaks to the loot table should be better setting up our delicate economy to provide more ebb and flow interactions where players seeking profit are encouraged to move between activities as their GP output fluctuates over time. Another important factor is that some resource drops are oversaturated, entering the game in either too high of a quantity or from too many sources. I'm thinking like grapes or pure essence, random things like that, which diminish their value over time. Chaos runes are a great example here. They're reasonably well balanced across activities where they're obtained, but the sheer quantity and number of sources of them mean their value is weakened. So from a GP per hour perspective, none of the loot tables that feature chaos runes are really benefiting from having them in the first place. With the above in mind, we've done some digging into spots where a single activity fulfills too many economic needs and in turn introduces too high of a percentage of a specific resource related to other activities. As an example, consider that Torstal seeds used to sell north of 50k to other players. Following the addition of Phantom Muspa and Tombs of a Masket, the supply of Torstal seeds rose drastically, and they now fetch a comparatively meager 6.5k. That's crazy. I mean, I remember Torstal drops. Those used to feel good, the Torstal seeds. Now they feel like shit. The knock-on effect of this is that for a future table to have a good Torstal seed drop, meaning that one has a similar GP value to good Torstal seed drops at the time of release for Tombs of a Masket and Muspa, we'd have to drop almost 8 times as many and continue snowballing the plummeting price of Torstal seeds. Yep. It's funny because looking at RS3 news, they released similar changes yesterday. Sounds like an internal Jagex thing. It probably is, yeah. I mean, Jagex is under new management, dude. They got a new head honcho, and they're changing a lot of things. They're doing a lot. Let's see. We can't just keep dropping more of something without ruining certain economies. So we're forced to give players drops that may feel weak from in terms of GP value, which leads to dissatisfaction. Torstal seeds are only one drop, but you can see that this is applied to every suitable drop we have in the game. We'd end up having core loot tables that don't feel very rewarding and likely have to fill the gaps with alkables, which furthers inflation, also not good. There may be some Iron players reading this and worrying about feeling starved of resources all of a sudden, but we don't believe that should be the case. From an economic perspective, even a small nerf in the supply of something like Torstal seeds from a handful of places can have huge benefits in their value. and we reckon we can make economically significant changes without having irons feeling as a squeeze or resource shortage. At the moment, me personally, as an Iron Man, I almost never have to go out of my way for resources. That being said, I'm not PVMing 10 hours a day every single day, but I do PVM for probably 20, 30 hours a week. And I never have to do farm runs, nothing like that. Everything in the game drops resources to a point where I pretty much sustain. I haven't fished in this game in probably straight up 2 or 3 years. And to be fair, 2 or 3 years ago, I stocked up like 12, 13K sharks and like 15K karambwans, but I'm only now just under 10K in both. So like, and I'm pretty sure I have like 2,000 raw sharks in the bank. It's very sustaining PVM between PVM and Kingdom. It is crazy sustaining. I mean, you guys know I very, very rarely do herb runs. So I mean, I could see them wanting to reduce the amount of resources they put into the game and how it probably won't make things, you know, significantly different for Ironman. I mean, say we do have to do the occasional fishing grind or farm run. I mean, that's part of being an Ironman. Let's see. Now that we're on the same page, you should be well equipped to read through all the specifics. There are too many to list neatly here. Yeah, I fucking bet. I'm just going to click this to look. There we go. Now let's zoom in on this mofo too. Yeah. But yeah, fish, here you go. We can actually go back and look at it real quick. Zulra, Muspa, Vorkath, the chests as well, all getting adjusted. Oh, I see. So the drop rate of them has been reduced by 75%. Oh my God. What does it say? That remove drop rate is then replaced with a shark drop. I see. When the shark drop is hit, it's a 50-50, whether you get sharks or twice as much shark chum. And it's set on here what shark chum is. Pretty sure. Shark chum is similar to diabolic worms. I see. It makes you catch sharks faster. That's cool. Gems are being reduced pretty much everywhere. Again, I don't see Gauntlet on here, which is kind of crazy because you get a shit ton of gems from Gauntlet. Runes are being nerfed from all kinds of places, including soul runes. Cache of runes is being nerfed. Quantities rebalanced. Lower quantity rolls are now 50 to 1,000 from 1,000 to 1,500. Interesting. Middling rolls 1,000 to 1,500 from 1,800 to 2,400. Top end rolls 3,000 from 2,800 to 3,600. CG is the biggest offender. I mean, like I said, dude, I'm surprised to not see CG on that list for sure. Herbs and seeds. Okay. Toa and chambers are on here big time. Quantity lowered by 20%. Replace 50% of the herb drops with roughly equivalent seed drops. Okay. Oh, they're nerfing dwarf weeds by even more, by 40%. Holy shit. But yeah, a bunch of things are nerfing herbs here and seeds, but there are other things too that are buffing, which is kind of cool to see. Cerberus. 1 in 50 chance to drop 2 Renar seeds. Ah, okay. All right. All right. Yeah, that's I mean, I could see that being okay. I mean, it doesn't seem like anything's egregiously nerfed or buffed, so that's all right. Notably absent from this list is Soul Wars. True. In simple terms, we're more or less eviscerating the loot here. Can't get a control on bots, so they just nuke the loot from it. I see. Minigames like this, where players can effectively determine their own rates of output, just cannot be allowed to be lucrative. We were quick to respond to Castle Wars crates being too strong. We've taken far too long to make this change. We'll be taking a Castle Wars-esque approach to Spoils of War with some blighted supplies on offer and replace the Castle Wars. Oh, wait. Yeah. I thought I skipped a line. Replacing the Castle Wars specific ammo with pure essence, but at a significantly lower GP value per crate. Pet hunters, your save the pet rate here will remain as is, and the time to obtain will be the same. Okay. There's a pretty significant size of this blog left related to some PVM. It looks like a lot of it's high-end PVM, but I did see some early and mid-game stuff in there too. Check out this video right here, and it'll take you to the second half of this blog.